Bianca Myers, 34, was an ER nurse in Hartford, Connecticut. Before the tragedy, she described her life as small and good. She lived with her husband, Jake, a software engineer, and their two children, 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Noah. Everything changed forever on Tuesday evening, November 14. While she was on duty, two state troopers delivered devastating news. A drunk driver named Gerald Fenton had run a red light and crashed directly into her family's car. Jake died at the scene. Lily passed away in the ambulance. Noah was rushed to the very hospital where Bianca worked, but he died just 3 minutes before she could reach the emergency room. In that moment of unbearable pain, Bianca completely fell apart. She stood frozen in the hospital hallway, still wearing her scrubs that smelled of antiseptic, feeling as though the world had stopped turning. The loss was too immense to comprehend. In a single night, her entire little family, her source of love, joy, and purpose, was gone forever. It was a devastating emotional shock, the beginning of a series of profound events that would change Bianca's life forever. In the depths of despair after losing her husband and two children, Bianca's first instinct was to call her mother, hoping for comfort and protection. Instead, she was met with shocking coldness. Her mother told her it was Megan's birthday, that the family was in the middle of a celebration and couldn't leave. She promised to call back later, then hung up. A few minutes later, Bianca called her father, but he only spoke briefly and said he would come see her the following week. The only message from her sister Megan was a short apology and a casual, "We'll talk tomorrow." No one came to the hospital. No one stood beside her during the most painful hours of her life. On the day of the funeral, the row reserved for her immediate family was completely empty. Only her colleagues, friends, and the pastor came to say goodbye to her husband and children. In that moment, Bianca understood with painful clarity. Her family had chosen a birthday party over her grief. Their indifference didn't just break her heart, it opened her eyes. For years, she had been the overlooked one, the one who gave endlessly but never received the same in return. That was the turning point. Bianca decided to cut off all contact and begin a new life, no longer dependent on a toxic version of family love. The funeral took place on November 18 under a cold, relentless rain. While her colleagues arrived wearing black scrubs, and Jake's best friend, Tom Whitfield, flew in from Boston to hold an umbrella over her, the front row reserved for family remained empty. All 4 white chairs were soaked through, not a single member of the Ashford family in sight. After the funeral, Bianca fell into a long stretch of emptiness. The house that had once echoed with laughter was now filled with a chilling silence. Every corner carried memories of Jake, Lily, and Noah, making it hard for her to breathe. Jake's coffee mug on the counter, Lily's drawing tape to the refrigerator, Noah's high chair in the kitchen, each familiar object felt like a quiet blade to her heart. Her biological family did not check in or offer comfort. Instead, they urged her to return to normal family gatherings as if nothing had happened. That was when Bianca realized that if she stayed in this relationship, she would always be the one who sacrificed and suffered. She chose to block all contact, creating distance to protect herself. Bianca began seeing a therapist to learn how to face her grief and start healing. Gradually, she returned to work as a nurse, even though every shift stirred painful memories. Her colleagues quietly supported her, sharing the workload and offering encouragement that helped her stay steady. Through therapy, Bianca came to understand that her pain was not only from losing her little family, but also from a childhood marked by emotional neglect. This realization allowed her to set boundaries, respect her own feelings, and slowly rediscover meaning in her life. It became the foundation for a stronger, more independent new chapter. The major turning point came when Bianca met with attorney Robert Calloway, an old friend of Jake's. She was stunned to learn that 8 months before the accident, Jake had secretly purchased a $5 million life insurance policy, naming Bianca as the sole beneficiary. It was as if he had sensed how alone she might one day feel without him. In the letter he left behind, he wrote, "You've always taken care of everyone else. Let me take care of you one last time." After much reflection and with guidance from her therapist, Bianca decided to use the money to establish the Myers Family Foundation. Rather than creating a simple memorial, she wanted something active and meaningful. The foundation would cover funeral expenses for families of drunk driving victims, provide rent assistance during the first months after a tragedy, and connect survivors with professional counseling services. She set aside a small portion of the funds to pay off the remainder of the mortgage and build an emergency reserve, just as practical and thoughtful as Jake had always been. The foundation quickly produced results beyond what she had imagined. In a short time, Bianca was able to support numerous families facing tragedies similar to her own. There were mothers who couldn't afford to bury their children, families on the brink of eviction after losing a primary provider, and survivors sinking into depression and despair. With timely help from the foundation, they found stability in their darkest hours. Each thank you letter, each tearful embrace, reminded Bianca that her pain was not meaningless. Through helping others survive what she had endured, she began transforming her grief into purpose. Meanwhile, Bianca's silence toward her biological family began stirring whispers in the community. More and more people started asking why her parents and sister had been absent from the funeral. When a local newspaper published a feature about her journey through grief and the creation of the Myers Family Foundation, the truth slowly came to light. The public responded with deep sympathy for Bianca and growing questions about her family's cold behavior. As the story spread, their reputation shifted dramatically. What had once been seen as a respectable family now became the subject of uncomfortable scrutiny. It marked the beginning of consequences they had never anticipated. Feeling the pressure of public opinion, her family began to panic. Her mother and sister repeatedly called and texted, even asking mutual acquaintances to mediate, hoping to repair the relationship. Then Mrs. Linda staged a family prayer gathering at her church, enlisting Pastor Grace Bennett and inviting more than 20 people to witness what she framed as a grieving mother rejected by her daughter. But Bianca showed up and calmly turned the narrative around. In front of everyone, she revealed the truth. She had called from the hospital on the night of the accident, and her mother had refused to come because she was busy cutting a birthday cake. She presented phone records showing the call lasted 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Pastor Grace confirmed that the family row at the funeral had been completely empty. The room fell into stunned silence. With dignity and composure, Bianca walked away, head held high, closing one painful chapter of her life for good. As a journalist, Tom Whitfield wrote a powerful feature in the Hartford Courant about Bianca's foundation and the broader issue of drunk driving. One short but weighty sentence stood out. Myers held the funeral with the support of colleagues and friends. Her biological family, according to her, was unable to attend. The article was shared thousands of times. It brought overwhelming support to the Myers Family Foundation, but it also became the final blow to the Ashford family's reputation. Linda lost her position as co-chair of the church's women's group. Neighbors began distancing themselves. Megan eventually locked her social media accounts after facing waves of criticism. Bianca's father, Donald, started sending quiet, remorseful messages, admitting he had been wrong. Megan even attempted to approach Bianca for a position on the foundation's board after learning about the $5 million insurance payout, but Bianca firmly refused, recognizing the insincerity behind the request. Bianca Myers' story closes with her standing as an ER nurse, a widow, a mother of angels, and the founder of a meaningful charity. She carries one hard-earned lesson: be present, not next week, not when it's convenient, not after the party ends, but now. She no longer sees herself as the invisible child, but as a strong woman who has learned to stand on her own and protect her peace. Though the pain never truly disappears, only changes form, Bianca chooses to carry the love of her husband and children forward by helping others. After years of anguish and inner turmoil, she gradually rediscovers peace. She is no longer haunted by the past or controlled by old wounds. Instead, she treasures small, quiet moments: a calm morning, a warm cup of coffee, a sincere conversation, or a grateful smile from someone she has helped. In those simple things, she finds a life that feels real, deep, and meaningful. Bianca slowly rebuilt healthy relationships around her. Her colleagues became close friends, and the families supported by the Myers Family Foundation grew into a tight-knit community, one where people lifted each other up with empathy and shared understanding. She came to realize that happiness no longer meant seeking validation from her biological family, but living in alignment with her own values. Through immense loss, Bianca grew stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate toward herself. She accepted pain as a part of life, but refused to let it define who she was. From devastation, she rebuilt. She emerged as a freer, calmer, and more empowered version of herself, ready to step forward with faith and hope. When everything finally began to settle, I realized that the most valuable thing I gained was not recognition from others, but peace within my own soul. I learned to let go of resentment not because they deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved lightness. Each morning, I take a deep breath, feel the sunlight filtering through the window, and feel grateful for the chance to begin again. I make time for myself now. I care for my health, nurture my dreams, and invest in relationships that are mutual and sincere. The old wounds are still there, but they no longer control my life. They have become lessons that made me stronger, wiser, and more grounded. I understand now that happiness does not come from being acknowledged by others. It comes from acknowledging your own worth. And when you are steady within yourself, the world around you begins to shift in the most positive way. I move forward on this new path with a different mindset, slower, clearer, and more grounded. I no longer chase anyone else's expectations. Instead, I listen to myself and learn to understand what I truly need and want. Every decision now comes from self-respect, not from the fear of being judged. I focus on building a stable life, taking small but steady steps. There are tiring days, moments when I feel discouraged, but I no longer blame myself. I allow myself to rest. I allow myself to make mistakes. I allow myself to begin again. Because of that, I've started to find joy in simple things. A warm meal, an honest conversation, a quiet evening. I've come to understand that happiness is not a distant destination. It's the ability to be fully present in each moment. And it is patience with myself that has helped me build a life that feels peaceful, whole, and meaningful day by day. As time passes, I realize that forgiveness is not a gift for others, it's a way to free myself. I no longer carry the heavy weight of resentment, nor do I try to erase the past. Instead, I accept what happened as part of my journey of growth. Every wound has left a mark, but each one has also taught me how to be stronger, more compassionate, and more discerning in my relationships. I began setting clear boundaries, no longer allowing anyone to hurt me carelessly again. The calmness I've found doesn't come from life suddenly becoming perfect, it comes from knowing that I deserve respect and love. With a lighter heart, I can now look back on the past with steady eyes, without trembling or resentment. That's when I understood that true healing had finally begun, and that I was slowly stepping out of the darkness toward a future that feels brighter, steadier, and full of hope. Entering this new chapter of my life, I consciously choose what is positive and healthy for me. I spend more time caring for my physical and mental well-being because I understand that no one else can do that for me. Waking up early, breathing in the fresh morning air, and moving my body gently help me start each day with renewed energy. I've also learned to release negative thoughts instead of letting them control my emotions for too long. Rather than drowning in worry, I focus on what I can control and appreciate every small step forward. Gradually, I've built a balanced rhythm, one that honors both work and rest. Toxic relationships have been replaced with sincere connections where I feel heard and understood. Because of this, I feel safer, lighter, and more confident in my choices. I've realized that slowing down doesn't mean falling behind. It allows me to go farther, more steadily, and more deeply on my journey toward genuine happiness. Looking back on everything I've been through, I feel grateful even for the pain. Those trials shaped me into someone stronger, braver, and more understanding. I no longer see hardship as misfortune, but as lessons that helped me grow. Every time I fell, I learned how to rise again steadier, without fear, without running away. I've come to believe that life is fair in its own way. Sometimes we just need time to see it. From old wounds, I've learned to love more deeply, to appreciate simple things, and to cherish the people who truly stand by me. I no longer wish for a perfect life. I simply hope for one that is emotionally fulfilling, peaceful at heart, and steady in faith. As I move forward, I carry compassion, gratitude, and hope with me so that each day feels meaningful, whole, and worthy of everything I've overcome. The future is still uncertain, but I'm no longer afraid of it. I've learned to welcome change with an open mind, seeing it as an opportunity to explore and refine who I am. Each day, I set small, realistic goals, taking steady steps toward the life I want to build. I no longer compare myself to others, because I understand that everyone walks their own path. What matters most is that I am living in alignment with my values and my dreams. I believe that with persistence and sincerity, every effort will eventually be rewarded. The road ahead may not be smooth, but I am ready to face it with calm determination. I cherish each present moment because it is the foundation of a strong future. And as I look forward, I carry faith, optimism, and courage with me, ready to continue writing my life story in the most meaningful and authentic way. In the end, I understand that happiness is not something waiting to be found. It is the result of daily effort, conscious choices, and perseverance. I no longer place all my trust in others. Instead, I learn to become a steady support for myself. When difficulties arise, I don't avoid them or complain. I face them calmly and look for solutions. Every challenge makes me stronger, more confident, and more mature. I treasure peaceful moments, even the smallest ones, because they are what truly give life its value. I've learned to love myself in a healthy way, not by indulging every impulse, but not by being overly harsh either. Because of that, I maintain balance between striving and resting, between dreams and reality. After everything, I've realized that the most valuable thing isn't what I achieved, but who I became along the way. I've learned to live honestly with my emotions, not hiding my sadness, but not letting it drown me either. I allow myself to be vulnerable when needed, and then I find the strength to rise and keep moving forward. Each day, I try to plant positive thoughts within myself, nurturing optimism and trust in the future. I cherish the people who remain by my side, who listen, who walk with me because their presence is a powerful source of encouragement through difficult times. From all I've experienced, I've learned to love more deeply, to slow down, and to truly savor the present moment. I'm no longer rushing after success. Instead, I seek peace within my soul. And as I look ahead, I carry a steady belief that as long as I continue striving and remain sincere, life will keep opening new doors, allowing me to grow and to live a life that is truly meaningful.